Do you have all the things they say should make you happy, but you still feel unfulfilled? Are you always doing what you should do? Or do you never feel like you're enough? And you want to feel better, more fulfilled, more aligned, and more comfortable in your own body? Then this is the show. Scared as fuck and doing it anyway, showing up authentically. My name is Paula Schuster, and I'm a self-love and authenticity coach. My life completely changed when I started loving myself again, putting myself first, and being true to me. This is the show that's going to help you get out of being stuck, out of the cycles of self-abandonment, and help you choose yourself without feeling selfish. It will give you not only inspiration, but awareness, courage, and insights to make changes and live your life for you. Hey everyone, welcome back to the Scared as Fuck and Doing It Anyway, Showing Up Authentically podcast. I'm your host, Paula Schuster, and I am jazzed up to have Megs Crawford with me on the podcast. Today, Megs is an entrepreneur with a professional organizing business. She's the host of the Mindful Megs Podcast, Organizing an ADHD Brain, which, by the way, just launched this past Monday. Congratulations, Megs, and everyone go check her out. Even if you don't have ADHD, you will get something out of her podcast. I can attest to that. She's a mom of 2 little girls and an entrepreneur. Did I say that already? She's also a spectacular singer, and I personally think she should be singing on stages. Like, her voice is so beautiful. It brings me close to tears, and I just love it so much. Megs hasn't always been an entrepreneur, though. She was in corporate leadership for 9 years and just left that gig in July 2023. So that's an interesting part of her journey. I'm just thrilled to have Megs on with me today. Number one, because we're pod sisters. We were in this podcasting program together, and we were put in small groups as part of that program. And so Megs and I were put in the same group, and we've been connecting and getting to know each other better. And I really just love her energy and her exuberance. And I love how articulate she is. We have a lot of commonalities, her and I, from our corporate lives, like literally how our jobs were our identities when we were in it. And we also have, some similarities in our journeys away from that part of our lives, from our corporate lives. I love how genuine Megs is, how she just goes for what she wants. I love her positivity, how she's always working to build up others around her. I really love that about her. She does that a lot in our pod group. And I love how she just embraces change, like, just come on, do it. I have a ton of respect for this woman, and I love how she builds community. So without further ado, please welcome Megs Crawford.
Hi, thanks for having me, Paula. I'm so excited to be here.
Oh, you're welcome. I'm so glad to have you. Do you want to start off by just telling us a little bit about yourself and what you do?
Yeah, absolutely. So, who I am now is I'm a professional organizer. I talk a lot about ADHD and how organizing and decluttering your life can really help clear your brain to focus on the things that you really want to prioritize in your life. And for me, it's my family, it's my small business, and of course, being happy, right? Just focusing on those things. Those are my top 3. I'm married. I have 2 beautiful girls, 6 and 4. I have 2 dogs, Barley and Hops, and I have a cat who's Cricket, and we live in Colorado, and gosh, there's so much more, but that's me in a nutshell.
Awesome. I love your priorities, family and happiness. And what was the other thing?
Family, happiness, and my business,
And your
right?
business.
Yeah, and growing my business for sure.
We have that in common. We both started small businesses as we were leaving corporate America. So do you want to talk a little bit about, you said who you are now is who you just, introduced yourself as. Who were you before? And what's more authentic to you?
Oh my gosh. It's so funny. I did a reflection exercise last night with a friend who is a life coach, and we talked a lot about, like, what have you gained and what have you learned over this last year? And who I was my job. Everything that I did was my job. when I would go to small gatherings or I would meet people on the street, all I wanted to do was talk about leadership, who I was, what I was doing, and the corporate world. And really, every single thing that I did outside of work, aside from being a loving mom and being there for my husband, was focused on growing in that role and anything I could do to reach higher levels. And for me, it meant so much, right? I had gotten my degree in political science. I didn't know what I necessarily wanted to do in this world. And I was living in Massachusetts at the time. I quit my job. I was working in a restaurant. I quit my job, moved across the country, and I got a job in a corporate situation. And I felt like I had finally made it, right? I said, this is what I should be doing because this is what people do. People get a job in corporate America, they get a 401k, they have benefits, and then they continue to do the right thing as they move up through the world.
Oh my God.
And I wouldn't give that back for anything. I want to put that out there too, is I learned so much. I learned so much about being a leader. I learned so much about who I am. I gained a ton of certifications. I got a ton of education. I'm halfway through my master's degree. And it's so interesting to be on the other side of that. So throughout my career, I worked up to the management level, and I was quickly working my way to being a director, possibly even going into the project management world, which I had dabbled in at one point or another. And every single day, I would just go in thinking, what do I need to do today to prove myself? What are the things that can get me noticed? And I not only would do the bare minimum or the maximum at my own job and trying to create like these creative ways of coaching people and inspiring them, but also trying to figure out how can I inspire the managers or even the directors in this world? How do I make that impact to help people believe in themselves and we can take this company to the next level, right? Like that's how I went into the corporate world every single day. And you'll find that I have that passion still in this world too, right? Not just the corporate world, but I was channeling so much of that energy. And in the last year I was in the corporate world, I found that it was met with such disdain and so much negativity that I didn't know what to do with all this energy that I wanted to put out into this world. Like I wanted to promote growth and learning and being a part of um, this society where you'd wake up and you'd learn something new every single day, but it was not met with a happiness response. People kept telling me, well, we don't have time for this, right? There's no time in the corporate world to focus on learning and growing. And if you're waking up at 5 a.m., girl, you're crazy, right? And there's nowhere for you to tell us about that because we've got too many other things going on in our lives. I was told that I got too passionate about things. And as I'm diagnosed with ADHD later on in my life, or over the past 2 years, I realized, oh, I get passionate about a lot of things. And so it takes a lot of figuring out what my priorities are to put that passion in one or two or three baskets, right? Rather than 10 of them. So there's a lot I learned from that feedback. And I I can't even believe that I'm no longer in the corporate world. Like it took so much for me to accept that this life was draining and it wasn't growing me anymore. I wasn't getting the leadership that I desired, that I felt like I was putting out into the world. I don't even know that I felt like I was inspiring the people that were under me as I once was. And that's partly because I wasn't getting that same kind of inspiration from the people above me. And when I made the decision to leave the corporate world, and it happened kind of fast, I it took me a while to leave it behind. I'm gonna be honest. I wish it was like a fast, I left and then like the world was amazing, except that I left and then I had to go through this intense mourning period of who I thought I was going to be and who I thought I was going to become, where I thought I was going to retire, and so on and so forth. So, this last year has been one of crazy transformation. And I'm sure there's so much more, but that's a little about me and my working career.
Wow. Wow. There's so much there that I can relate to. Like just going back kind of through some of the things, everything was your job. It was like your identity, right? That was the same thing for me. Everything was about my job title, about how much money I made, about climbing that corporate ladder, the next job. It's how I defined myself. Even though I was a wife and a mom and I was doing other things, like that is not what I ever really talked about as much.
Yeah.
It was always about my job. So I can totally relate to that. Um, I was also told that I was too passionate, and like too ambitious. Yeah, many times throughout my career. That happened mostly when I was younger. But I was in the corporate world. I don't know how long you were in the corporate world, but I was there for like 26 years.
Yeah, it
Um,
was 9 years for me.
okay. And
Yeah.
so that was when I was younger that I heard that a lot because I was going for bigger jobs that were the next step for me at that time because I had climbed the ladder fairly quickly because I worked so damn hard. Um, and always rose my hand and said yes to everything, and all the things. But then like when I got to a certain point, they're like, "Oh, you're too ambitious." you know. Um, anyway, I also love how you said that you wouldn't change anything, that, you gained a lot from corporate America. It's taken me a while to get to that place. And the more women I talk to about it and hear that sort of same theme, the more I am accepting that myself. Because when I left corporate America, I was just like, I went to the other end of the spectrum and I was like, I'm not using those skills. I'm not doing anything. I want to just like leave that in my past. I don't want to think about it, talk about it, anything. And now I'm moving more toward the middle again. And yes, realizing all the things that did benefit me, right? And I know that it got me to where I'm at and all those things. And I am grateful for that. But it's taken me a while to get to that point. Um, so you said that, some of the things you were wanting to do and saying in the corporate space in that last year or whatever were met with disdain and negativity. And so how do you look at that now? Is that because when you were talking about that, I was thinking, oh, this was the universe sort of helping her, in
Oh,
the
yeah.
moment, it probably didn't feel great, but now looking back, how does that feel for you?
It feels I- I'm gonna tell you a story because I feel like this encapsulates what you were just saying. I we every 6 months there was a an award that would go out for a leader, and you could get nominated not only by your director but also peers and by people who reported to you. And every single year, half year, 6 months, I was nominated for this award. And I think it was going on 3 years, and I still had not been chosen for this award. And I had one peer who was, gosh, she was awesome. She was my best friend at work, right? I could go to her for everything. And she wrote this incredible nomination for me for this leadership award. And it's just because I put my heart and soul out there. I think I had 4 nominations from my team, and then 2 of my other peers had nominated me for this as well. So I think I had 7 nominations this last go round. And there was another one of my peers that had 1 nomination, and it was from our direct leader, and she won.
Of course.
And and I say that I at first when I would tell this story, I was like, oh, I feel so selfish, like telling it this way. But honestly, it's a story, and what I got from it is I was like, she needed that award more than I did because she is the type of employee that's going to work there for a really long time. Like she got that award and it filled a space for her that she needed to continue to drive her team forward. Now, it wasn't that I wasn't doing that, but not receiving that award allowed me to continue to make space to leave the corporate world. Not getting recognized in the way that I needed to, and I need recognition. That's just who I am. That's my personality.
Mhm.
It's what I need. And one thing that my director had said to me one time is is like, hey, as you move up into the director and the C-suite roles, you're not going to get that recognition that you want. And I'm like, cool, maybe that's not for me then. Maybe I don't want that, right? Like maybe I don't want to lose that aspect. I want people to appreciate what I'm doing because I work so hard to do it. And I don't know, is that too much to ask for? Anyways, I say that because I feel like that was such an important space for me to say, oh my gosh, it's totally okay that this person won that award because if I won that award, it would have given me a reason to stay. And I
Right.
don't need another reason to stay. I need more reasons to go out there and live my best life and be my full self. And I had no idea what that meant at that time. I know so much more now, but that is what I had decided in the moment that that's what that award had meant. So it felt really good to come to that conclusion. And so many other things, right? I don't think the other things really meant as much, but hearing you say like that was just more of the universe telling me I needed to go do other things. And then when I left, I was initially seeking another role in a corporate environment. And I was even working on my resume to do so. But as I continued to work through, what my passions were and what my ideal job was, I finally realized that there was no other corporate role out there that could give me and fit all of the boxes that I needed them to fit into in order to make me happy. And so that's why I decided to start my own business and go my own route.
Nice. Yeah. So I also left and had sought another similar sort of role in a company, a much smaller company. And so I had um, was at an organic mushroom farm company in Colorado for a hot minute, right after that's what
Cool.
wined and dined me enough out of my, the job I had been in for 25 years, the company I was at, that was a large financial institution that everybody knows, but I won't say the name. Um, but what wined and dined me out of that was this organic mushroom company farm, and they had a nonprofit arm. So the reason why I was leaving corporate America was to do more purposeful work. Well, I saw that mushroom farm as more purposeful work because mushrooms are healing for people, and they had this nonprofit arm that was going to be healing the earth with the spent mushroom bags, and I was really into that. And they needed a CFO, and I had a finance degree and, all this experience. And so they weren't able to pay me a salary, but they were promising me like 10% ownership in the company. And we had all of these major like strategic partnerships lined up with like a kombucha company and CBD companies who wanted to marry their products with mushrooms, organic mushrooms. And so I'm like, yeah, so that's what wined and dined me enough out of corporate America. And then the owner of that company ended up being really abusive. And I had just healed from a bunch of like all of the abuse in my past. And so it was the universe like testing me, saying, okay, front and center, here's abuse again. Are you going to choose it?
Oh my
Or are
gosh.
you gonna choose yourself? And so I quit. I quit, and the reason why I had done that stop at the organic mushroom farm was because I was too scared to really go out and build my own business. It was fear-based.
Oh,
And so
yeah.
the day I quit that mushroom farm, I went online and I bought a tent and I said, I'm building my business locally. And then I signed up for like county fairs, street fairs, expos, all farmers
Heck
markets.
yes.
And yeah, and
Oh, that's awesome.
yeah.
Oh,
So, I love that you kind of were looking at that too, like another company, and then decided, no, you stopped and you recognized this isn't for me. This isn't really, um, where I want to go. I don't want to fit in these boxes anymore. Um, so I want to go back too to what you said about needing recognition, because I always have really sought that out too. And I don't know that I've even come to terms with that myself. And so I love that you said that's just me. That's just part of my personality.
yeah.
And what I've been trying to do is not look for anything outside myself, right? Is I have everything that I have within me, everything that I need is within me. All the love that I need is within me. I don't need all of this external validation. But I'm learning from you. You just said that that's okay. It's okay if I like recognition from other people. I can still have everything I need within myself, but like that validation or that recognition from others. So thank you for saying that.
Yeah, I think honestly, I don't know that I really knew that until I started talking about it again too, because when I was first told that, hey, you're going to have to get used to not getting recognition, I was trying to gaslight myself into saying, well, I don't need that, right? I don't need the recognition. I don't need to people to appreciate what I'm doing on a regular basis. But then as I grew out of I was like, "No, it's okay to want the recognition and the validation." Like, it's as simple as, my children who are 4 and 6, when they're picking up, I praise the heck out of them because I'm like, "Thank you. Thanks for contributing to the household, for doing your part. That's incredible." And when you're working to make a business run, and you're working so hard to fulfill the mission of that business, you make it your sole responsibility, right? I think that recognition should come daily, right? And as some I am a sole entrepreneur right now, but I do eventually want to hire people. And if I have people that are working to make my dreams come true and help to fulfill the mission that I'm building myself and the vision I have for my company, you better believe I'm going to be thanking them on a regular basis. And that is something that they should expect because if they're working to help me make money, right, and to help make my own dreams come true, then I'm going to reward them tenfold for it. And I think that that's what we should come to expect in this world. But for so long, I think, yeah, it's so interesting this conversation, right? Because I felt selfish for wanting that recognition for so long. And I felt like people would look down on me for it. But no, I've worked really hard and I just wanted someone to say, good freaking job for doing what you do. Thank you. Right?
Exactly. Exactly. I guess what I'm thinking of too as I'm listening to you talk is it's sort of a love language for me. Like that appreciation from others like fills me up in ways. And so I'm going to stop denying that. I'm going to stop denying myself that. Thank you for that.
It was funny. I have a great way of just meeting people and networking with people. And I met with a lot of directors before I left, and they shared a lot of really awesome things with me. Like they were very vulnerable, open, and just real humans with me versus just the authority figure that, a lot of people know them for.
Mhm.
But one director who we talked really passionately about the learning and the growth and the development. And they shared with me, hey, I've been working so hard to get people to be passionate about this for 15 to 20 years now. And I looked at him and I was like, that sounds awful. And I do not ever want to be in the position where I've worked 15 to 20 years to get someone to listen to me and to get other people to be passionate about it with me just to be met with deaf ears. I was like,
Right.
oh, that's not for me. So that felt good to hear too, right? It's just people telling me this. And I think that's part of it is I was like, oh, this is literally what the corporate world is. This is what this is. And there were aspects of it that weren't like it, look like that for so long for me, which is why I stayed for so long. But as I started to learn the truth of that, I'm like, oh no, not for me. And that's okay. That's totally fine that it's not for me.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I want to go back to the fitting in the boxes because that's how I always felt in corporate. Like I felt like I had to show up a certain way. I felt like I had to dress a certain way. I had to look a certain way. I had to talk a certain way. And that was just the way that life was, right? Now I know, that I probably would have even been more successful if I would have been a little bit more authentically myself. But um, I just think that I was in the wrong place anyway. Like, corporate just wasn't authentic for me, even though it served me and all the things. Um, you know, and so have you then gone through this sort of journey of realizing, yeah, that really wasn't me being authentic to me? And you said this has been a big year of transformation for you. Bring us through that.
Yeah, absolutely. I think there was so much that I tried to incorporate myself into the role. And and one thing that I really cherished was being able to coach my team. And there was one thing that I did for them, with them, I should say, is we just talked about growth and the growth mindset and how to get better at this job, but I also incorporated their regular lives into it. So, like, we set a goal. This was one fall, we put together a plan where every week we would meet and we talk about their growth, but we talk about their growth not only in their sales role and them developing, but also what they were developing at home, right? And I knew the names of their kids and their dogs and their cats and their husbands, right? And their wives. That was a really important part of myself that I never lost. And I felt like I could have lost that as I continued to grow through the corporate world. But there were other parts of it that I felt like there were certain things I couldn't say. There were there were certain things that I couldn't do or be, and I felt uncomfortable talking in a certain way, even to colleagues that I just didn't know too well because I didn't know their belief system and what they wanted to happen at the company. And it was just very interesting, the person I was. And then it even got so far, like I would defend the company I worked for, like, with my whole heart. So
Yeah.
people would talk about them in a negative light outside of work, and I would be like, heck no, you don't know how this works, right? And
Right?
and now it was so funny because there was a conversation that came up, in about the industry that I worked in, and I started to talk about it in the way that I used to. And then I was like, whoa, I don't even care. Like, it got to that. I was like, I don't care what we're talking about in this sense so much that I need to, one, defend that company any longer, nor defend the industry in general, because I think it's insane right now with what's going on in the world. And that's just something I don't have to care about anymore. And that felt so powerful to think about and to know. I also went to a get together the other night, and it was with a bunch of people that still work in that environment, or work in that environment, but with a new company. And I left the event and I was like, oh, I don't want to talk about it anymore. I want to let that part of myself go. I
Mhm.
want to let that be in the past now. And I no longer want it to be my present. And so yeah, I think that just, it wasn't, like, I felt like it was not only my identity and I brought a lot of who I am into that role, but it was still within a box, right? Like, even though I could be myself in some aspects and I tried to incorporate that, I was still so boxed in as to what I can do and what I could say. And I think you had even said it one time, like, or maybe it was a coach that I had been working with. She wanted to develop this course and put it together and teach people, like, uh, how to believe in themselves, and really just talking about yourself in a positive manner, and talking about, like, how you can create, I don't know, your own world and your universe as long as you're putting goodness out into the world. And she goes, but if I was in the corporate setting, I would have had to get it approved by this person and this person, this person. Then I would have to get these people to show up and this person to, like, back me up on it. She's like, because I work for myself, I don't have to do any of that. I can just literally put it out into the world and see who wants to receive it. And that's it. And so that inspired me. Those words rang true. I was like, I want to teach people things. I want to put courses out into the world.
Yeah.
And I want to inspire people. And it's helped me to realize that one of my purposes, or my sole purpose, is just to really help people understand that, like, just because you are a certain way at one point in your life doesn't mean that you have to be that way for the rest of your life. If you believe in yourself and you talk to yourself in a way that helps you grow and thrive, there's nothing you can't achieve.
Right.
Right. And, like, I don't know, that's just that's how I've believed for a long time in my adult, I don't know, journey. And now I'm seeing it more and more as I'm doing it myself.
Yeah. And well, and constant change and evolution is really what we're here for. But
Gosh, yeah.
did I live that way for 30 years, 35? No. But now I realize that, right? Like I was, I don't know, in conditioned and just like not awake enough to know that, right? Or not aware enough to to know it myself. I was very much in the place of, I said I was doing this thing and I said I was going to be this way. And so that's how I am. And that's what I'm going to be. And I think there's so many people in society who are stuck in that same place too, right? Like there's one path, one way. I've decided this is who I am. And so I'm not changing.
Mhm.
And then, if you do, then you get all this backlash kind of a thing, or all this judgment. And really, like, that's what life is about. It's about growth, like to your earlier point, growth and change and evolution and newness. And so, as I quit corporate and started building my own business, I first started off with Reiki and life coaching. And then once I was really away from corporate for a little while, I just started like, and really loving myself again. I started noticing all these little heart's desires. And so I started following them. And my wife describes it as I'm tied to this rocket that's all over the place. Because I did this one thing for so many years, and that's how she knew me. And now I'm like, oh, I want to try this, and oh, I want to do this, and oh, this and that, and I'm doing all the things. And so, like, it takes people around you a little bit to get used to that too. Um,
Yeah, but then you have to try the things to figure out, well, like now that I've done one thing for so long, what's the next like one thing I'm gonna focus on? But sometimes it takes just dabbling in a lot of different things first to figure out what your niche is gonna be. And maybe it isn't just one thing anymore. Maybe it is a whole bunch of darn things, and that's your life, which is so awesome.
yeah, I want to have a bunch of tools in my tool belt, or however you want to refer to it. So yeah, I'm really of the mind now, and I am sort of preaching it to my kids, because my kids, grew up, my kids are 16 and 18. And so they grew up, with me in the old way, sort of in this one way. And so now I preach to them all the time, like, whatever your heart's desires are, like, you don't have to go to college, the education system doesn't serve, but all these things, just do what really makes you happy. And then you won't really be working a day in your life, kind of thing. It won't feel like work.
I
Yeah.
like that a lot because coming back to the shoulds, when I first went to school, now I've sang my whole life. I'm a singer.
And you
I've
have
been
a
singing.
beautiful voice. I'd
Oh,
love to
thank
hear
you.
more.
It's because I was singing on our Zoom call the other night, right? I think maybe, I don't know. Um, but I sang my whole life. I was in a chorus when I was a kid, and as I grew up, I got into a cappella groups. I even started an a cappella group with some friends in Boston. They're still semi-pro to this day.
Oh.
But when I first went to college, I wanted to be a music major. And I didn't know what I wanted to do. I just knew I wanted to learn more about music and have that incorporated into my life. And I was told that that wasn't a safe move to make, and that wasn't what I should be doing. So then I saw all these other people, they decided to become business management majors. And then my roommate she had a business management major with a focus in marketing, which sounded, oh, that sounds cool, right? And so, but I still had no idea what I wanted to do. If I'm not going to pursue music, which is what I'd wanted to do my whole life, then what am I supposed to do? Eventually I actually left college for a little bit, and then I went back and I fell in love with one of my professors who was teaching international relations. And that's when I decided to become a political science major. And I just love the aspect of learning about so many different cultures and communication. And that's why I think I love to talk so much, because I love the value of the words that you can say and how it can impact another person.
Mhm.
Um, Many ways I say all that because I finally found something that I was passionate about, but then I didn't know what to do with it. I had no idea. Aside from music, now political science seemed a little bit more safe, but I didn't feel as if I was worthy enough for any of those things. I'm like, oh, well, I can't be a politician because there's already politicians, right? And I can't be a musician because there's already amazing musicians out there. And so when I went into the corporate world, it felt like almost like the easy route too, right? It was hard and there was so many things, but like I'm like, oh, well, if you do this and you do that, it's easy to do this then, right? Like you can, as long as you continue to follow the rules and teach people how to listen and obey and do these things, it is so easy for you to make that money and move up the corporate ladder.
Right.
Um, and I felt like that's what I should be doing for so long. And so uh, out of the corporate world, I just feel like I'm discovering myself in ways that I'm able to tap into some of that excitement that I had going to school. And I am able to teach my kids, like you're teaching your kids, that there's nothing that they can't do if they put their mind to it. Right. And
I
especially
believe
with
that
the
it's possible.
of the world.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's so much that's possible now. If they're the worst singer in the entire world, maybe I won't encourage them, but maybe there's a way that they could be a really good singer, right? I don't know, but we're building a savings plan for them right now, but instead of for college, we're just going to allow them to do what they need to do with this money when they get to be the age that they are, right? And I'm proud to do that because I never had any sort of money to work with. I started from scratch when I was 18 and with a ton of student loans,
I know. I know.
trying to figure out what the heck I wanted to do, right? And so yeah, it's just so interesting. I I love what you say about learning and growing. I don't want my kids to make the same mistakes that I did, and I'm going to teach them what I know, and then I'm going to allow them to make their own mistakes so that they can learn and grow the way that they need to.
Right. Because everybody has their own path. It's really hard sometimes as a mom. Like, I still struggle with that all the time of, trying to carry too much for my kids, right? To save them from whatever, pain or frustration or, whatever it is. And I have to always constantly remind myself, like, they need to have their own experience, and I'm stealing it from them if I try to carry some of that. And it's a deep codependent pattern that I have too, that I've had since, I was a kid. I grew up with it. And I mean, most of us are kind of conditioned to be codependent,
Sure.
especially women. Yeah. But you said a minute ago about you didn't feel worthy. And so how do you maintain your feeling of worthiness now, or what, have you overcome that? What do you do to feel worthy?
That's a really great question. And so when I was in my 20s, I felt like there were so many things I should be doing, right? And I didn't focus on anything that I wanted to be doing because I didn't think that I could.
Yep.
But towards the end of my corporate career, maybe it was all this research I had done on leadership. I had been reading a ton of books, but I had this eureka moment. I was just like, oh, gosh, if they can do it, so can I. Like, they're just a human, and so am I. And yes, all of our worlds have different circumstances of growing up, and certain people have, a leg up than, on the world than other people, right? As far as moving up the corporate ladder, getting certain positions and things like that. But if you work hard and you continue to strive to do something that you want to do, then you're going to be really good at it because you believe in yourself. And so um it's something that I have to practice every day. So like just because I'm talking about it doesn't mean I'm good at it.
Yeah.
It just means that
Ditto.
I incorporate it into my life. But when I left the corporate world, I was really down on myself because I didn't have a job, because that was my worth for so long. And then when I decided to start my own business, I had to continuously tell myself, okay, well, just because you haven't been a professional organizer your whole life doesn't mean that you're not going to be an amazing professional organizer. And so I continue to tell myself, like even today, I was looking at um, scrolling through social media and I saw an idea that I can incorporate into my business. And immediately I had this thought of, oh my gosh, they're already doing it. I can't believe I haven't incorporated this into my business yet. And I had to take a step back and say, whoa, you literally just started your business and you've been doing so much little tiny improvements every single day to make it to where you are now. And if that's what you want to do, then do it. Just literally start incorporating something small to make it to that point tomorrow.
Yep.
Right. And so so that is what I've started to do, is to break it up into small little segments. And I can't be the perfect version of myself tomorrow, and perfection really doesn't exist. But I can envision specifically what I want a year from now, and I can start working on it now because there's a tiny little move I could make today to strive to get to that next step. And just like my podcast, right? I haven't launched my podcast yet. Maybe by the time you launch this, but I think about it every single day. I have actually something on my to-do list today to get me towards launching my podcast. And eventually it's going to happen because I believe that it will.
Yep.
And someone said the other day, I forget where I heard this too, but I heard that like we've been beating ourselves up our whole lives. We've been preconditioned to beat ourselves up. And it's almost as if we think that like if we look in the mirror and we say you're so fat that one day you just won't be, right? That we'll beat ourselves up into like not being that way one day or finally doing the work to get to that point. But can you imagine if we lived in a world where we all just talked to ourselves in a way that was loving? And I think that's why people have faith in God, right? Like God loves you, so you should love who you are, right? And I'm not big on religion, but that's why I talk to myself in a positive way and I practice that and I'm practicing it for my kids because if we live in a world where people love themselves, then can you imagine what kind of love could be put out into the world?
This is exactly why I'm on a mission. And this is why I'm on a mission to help people love themselves again, especially,
Yeah.
but really everybody, because the women have been raising the boys and the girls. And so it's like an epidemic across, the country, the world, really, that people don't love themselves and they're so mean to themselves and they're so unhappy because they are talking to themselves so badly. And so, um, but this is why I'm a self-love and authenticity coach. Like that's what I'm calling myself now because that's where I want to put my focus. Because yes, imagine if if everybody loved themselves and talked to themselves like they talk to their best friend or their daughter or their son. Um, yeah, imagine the world we would live in. We would live in a so much of a better place. And that's, I think a big reason why we have this, so much of the crap that and shitty world that we have right now, right? Like it's not all crap and it's not all shitty, but a big, there's a lot of ickiness and negativity going on. And it
Absolutely.
really, it's not just a bullshit saying, it does start with us.
Yeah.
I saw all those memes and I would see all the sayings and for years, but it never really, sunk in for me like it does now. So, um, and I love that you talked about just this morning about how you were scrolling through social media and you saw this thing and had this moment of, oh, they're already doing it. But so now you recognize that and you stop it and you change that reel in your head, right? Instead of like before, and I don't want to speak for you, but for me anyway, it would have been, oh, I would have seen that and had that thought and that would have stopped me. That would have prevented me from going forward. And I would have said, oh,
Yes.
well, fuck it, that somebody's already doing it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And maybe you wouldn't have realized it until days later that you're like, no, 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 I can still do this. I'm just not doing that yet. And that's fine.
Right.
But yeah, that's why it's a practice, right? Like if you start to practice today, like starting to recognize those things and how they affect you, then you can combat that in a way that just helps you grow versus taking you down. And
Exactly.
that's the difference. And that's the growth, right? That's learning from our past experiences. Just because someone else is doing it may be better than us. I don't know. There's always going to be someone out there better. Use that as an excuse to grow and be
Right.
better yourself.
And there's
And that's,
billions of people out in the world, like, there's
yeah,
still somebody else might be doing it, but like you can still do it and find your little circle of people who are gonna, be into it and, want your services and yeah. So it is a practice and there's so many practices, right? Tools and practices that can help us with loving ourselves, with reminding ourselves to be our most authentic self, to choose ourselves and not abandon ourselves in all the little and big ways every day. So, are there other like tools and practices you count on that you rely on to help you?
yeah, definitely. So, one thing my husband and I do and we're not perfect at it, but it helps. And this is what I'm incorporating into my 2024 routine more regularly is we get up at 5 a.m. And if you've never read it, I would highly recommend the 5 a.m. Club by I think it's Robin Sherman. I'll have to come back to you on the name, but incredible book, and just talks about how getting up in the morning and planning out your day and crafting it to the best of your ability and really just spending time with yourself is so important. So I wake up at 5 a.m., 20 minutes of yoga. I do 20 minutes of journaling and gratitude, and I pick 3 different things to be grateful for every single day. And I write down why, right? So I try not to choose the same thing every single day so I can focus on diversifying my gratitude.
Yeah.
And then I spend 20 minutes learning something. So like right now, I am not great at my website, but I'm not ready to hire someone to manage my website for me. So I've been putting a ton of effort into YouTube videos, and I just speed them up. I put them on like 2 times speed so that I can really get the most out of it in the time that I have. But I'm just learning about building my website now. And so if I incorporate that into every single day in one week, there's so many different tools I'm going to have just to be able to work on my website and build that. And so, and then I change it up just depending on, what I have to put more effort into, like social media and, all these different things that I want to do to grow my business, my brand. And next on my list is actually the podcast technical aspects of things and just making sure I have that down so that I can promote and publish my podcast. So that is something that's so important. And honestly, when I don't do it, my days are dramatically different. It's
Yes.
crazy.
Hmm.
Um, Something I do after that 1 hour period is I write down 6 things I want to accomplish that day. And then I try to time box it. With ADHD, I have to have productivity tools that remind me of the things that I want to do. And when I don't have reminders, things don't get done. And that's just because my brain is so excited about the next thing to do that it often deprioritizes the things that I've set up for myself. So that's why I have reminders, and I only choose 6 things because if I choose any more than that, they don't get done. And
Yeah.
I'm not trying to overwhelm myself. I have a running to-do list too. If I have like a good idea, I'll write it down, which is helpful, like, whether it's to do with the house or the business or kids' activities, things like that. So those are some regular things that help me so much get through the day and feel so good at the end of the day that I've done something to impact the world in a positive way.
I love that. I love that. And I hear you like, so I meditate every morning. It's taken me a couple of years to get into a regular, consistent practice. But now if I don't meditate in the morning, like I am not, like I can feel it. I feel like I'm not nice. Like my thoughts are way different than if I meditate. And I'm to the point where I like to meditate for anywhere between 20 and 40 minutes. But even if I don't have that time, if I meditate for 10, it's good enough, right? But I have to do that every day. Just like you said, you have to you feel when you don't do it, right? It's a big deal. I love that you're doing this gratitude journaling. So every day when I wake up, before I even open my eyes, I do an appreciation practice similar to your journal, your gratitude journaling, where I'm focusing on different things every day and feeling into each of the things. So not just listing them off in my head, but spending like 15 minutes laying there in bed, 10 or 15 minutes, focusing for a few minutes on each thing or more of just that feeling of appreciation and just feeling it in my heart and feeling it like my heart open and sort of my whole body light up around it. And that is a game changer. It really sets the stage for the rest of the day. And I feel like gratitude journaling that you're doing is really similar to that. Yeah.
Absolutely. And it's proven too, like when you focus on those positive things that are in your life, you train your brain to continue to look for the positive and to look for the things that you're going to incorporate into your next day because you're so grateful for those things.
Yeah.
So,
Because
and it's helped.
and we do have to train our brains to do that because we as humans, for whatever reason, like we have a negativity bias. It's the way our brains work. And
Yep.
I think it's just because it's the primitive brain from, deep in our history, but that we're still operating with. Although that's all changing and evolving right now in this time, but which is super exciting. But we do have a natural negativity bias. And so it is a training, it's a practice. It's doing the work is in the practices, in the daily practices, in the commitment to them. Do you agree? Do you have
Oh
anything
my gosh,
to
a
add there?
million percent. I see it in the way that I talk to myself. Um, and I'll give you a good example. I I was always heavy my entire life, and I had bariatric surgery. I lost a lot of weight, which is awesome. I feel really good about my health. And the other day, my daughter had mentioned to me my belly and how big it is. And she's like, Mommy, you've got a really big belly. And at first I walked away and I was like, what do I say to this, right? I have to really look inward and figure out the words to say. But I went back to her and I was like, you know what, mommy is, I have a big belly because I grew two amazing babies in here. I'm
Nice.
proud of this belly and what it's done. And it looks this way because it's a mommy belly and it's totally fine. And as we continue to talk about our bodies, we sing songs about loving our bodies and things like that. But I never did that growing up. And so when I look in the mirror now, I see myself in a completely different light than I did. And I obviously losing weight can help with that, but I will say that is not the one thing that helped me. Still looking in the mirror, I would be so judgmental, but now I look in the mirror in my flawed glory and I say that is a beautiful body and I'm so proud of what I've done to get here. I do a ton of yoga. I do a ton of strength training and like the things that I can do now, I'm just so proud of. And so um, that's just one example. But the other example is like in the beginning of my journey with my business, I didn't necessarily believe in myself the way that I do now.
Mm.
So incorporating the positive self-talk and telling myself that I can do this, even if I don't feel like I can, has helped so much. Because even when I'm standing in the mirror and saying, oh my gosh, you're an idiot, I immediately say, whoa, that is rude, and I change and I'm like, I'm awesome. I'm awesome. I'm awesome. And I continue to repeat that to myself so that I can have a better outlook on myself for the day.
Yeah.
So, but it's hard to get there. It is hard, but your brain is easily tricked if you continue to trick it.
Yeah. Beautiful. I love that. And good for you for not letting yourself be triggered by, what your innocent daughter was, saying
Oh,
about your
totally.
belly.
Yeah.
And your belly is not big. So
Right. Like she doesn't know and
yeah.
she's just making an observation. Totally fine.
Yeah. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Oh, this has been so good, Megs. I just love you. And I'm so glad that you came on to talk with us.
Yeah, likewise. Thank you so much for having me. This was incredible. I really appreciate this conversation.
Me too. Me too. And maybe we can do it again.
Yeah, heck yeah, I'd love to.
So, Megs, tell me where people can find you.
Yeah, so you can find me on my website. It is mindfulmegs.com. All of my social media handles are attached there. You can scroll to the bottom. I think I have them at the top as well. I have Facebook, I have Instagram, I have TikTok. Um, yeah, so check me out. I'd love to chat with you. You can schedule a free consultation with me if you'd like to chat more about organizing, or want to learn more about my podcast, which will also be on that website, mindfulmegs.com. So you can learn more about how to listen to me.
Awesome. And yes, check her out because she has so many good tips and I love her organizing videos and things. But I have to say, like you did this video, we're recording this on December 29th of 2023. And you had a video right before Christmas teaching people how to make bows out of wrapping paper.
Yeah.
You don't have to buy bows. And that's what I did this year. I loved it.
Yay. Oh
Yeah.
my gosh, I love that you tried it. Yes. I'm all about saving money. I have another one out there you should check out. I'll send it to you, which is how to make your curtains look fuller, and you use little toilet paper rolls. Oh, It's so fun. It's really cool. It's so easy to do, and it looks so good when you're done.
I
So,
love this. I love this. I got to go check it out. Check her
heck
out,
yeah.
people. All right. Love you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Megs, I really loved our conversation. There were just so many goodies in it, and I really feel inspired after being in your energy and listening back to this episode to prep it for release. I just really appreciate you, and I'm so grateful that our paths crossed and that we got connected in this life. Thank you, lady. Okay, folks, here are the takeaways from our conversation. Number one, remember that the universe helps us in ways that don't seem to make sense at the time, like closing doors on things we think we really want because it knows a better path for us. Number two, it's okay to want and need recognition from other people, to have people appreciate what you're doing. That was a good one for me. Number three, just because you are a certain way at one point in your life doesn't mean you have to be that way for the rest of your life. Number four, if you believe in yourself and talk to yourself in a way that helps you grow and thrive, there's nothing you can't achieve. Number five, be in a constant growth mindset. Constant change and evolution are really what we're here for. Number six, sometimes it takes dabbling in lots of different things to figure out what you want to do, and maybe it isn't just only one thing. Number seven, listening to our parents or others about what we should do, and I'm using air quotes on the should do, or what we should go to college for, rather than what we want and what really feels good in our hearts, will almost always result in unhappiness and possibly also sickness. Number eight, discovering yourself again and again is exciting and teaches your kids anything is possible. Number nine, break things up into small segments. There are small steps we can take each day to get where we want to be. It's the small steps that turn into big changes. Number 10, talk to yourself in a loving, positive way. Practice doing it. If we live in a world where people love themselves, can you imagine what kind of love would be put out into the world? Positive self-talk matters. Number 11, just because somebody is already doing something out in the world doesn't mean we can't or we shouldn't. Let these things help you grow instead of letting them take you down or stop you. Number 12, a daily gratitude journal or appreciation practice in the morning is a game changer and is so powerful. It's proven that if you focus on positive things in your life, you train your brain to continue to look for the positive. Number 13, the work is in the commitment to the daily practices. I couldn't agree more. All right, a quick plug for my coaching services. I have a life that I can't wait to wake up for every day, and it hasn't always been that way for me. I can show you how you can create the same life for yourself. It's about rewiring limiting beliefs, loving yourself, being your most authentic self, and being devoted to the small tools and practices that will change the trajectory of your life. Even when you don't think you have limiting beliefs, or when you think you love yourself, it's amazing what you learn when you have someone else listening to you and reflecting back what you actually have going on. And that's what a coach does. Personal growth precedes all other growth. Professional, relationship, spiritual, all of it. So invest in yourself. And if you're ready to make changes in your life, believe in yourself, clear patterns of unworthiness, and learn how to put yourself first without feeling guilty, check out my coaching packages. Look at my About Me page to learn more about me, and book a free discovery call to find out if we're a good match for working together. Some of the best investments I've made in my life were on coaching or on coaches. You can find everything at reikiflowmn.com. Okay, thank you so much for spending your time here with me today. I hope my podcast helps you. I hope it sheds new light on things. I hope it sparks inspiration in some way. And I hope it helps you believe in yourself to the point where you know there's nothing you can't achieve. Remember to follow along on Apple Podcasts or Spotify or wherever you're listening, because I have so many more incredible episodes coming up. And please download, follow, or subscribe. If you follow or subscribe, you'll be notified when new episodes are available, and that will also help other people find the podcast. So please do that. I post every week for sure on Thursdays and more in between if I feel compelled to share something more, like I did this week, like the self-love sound bath that I released on Valentine's Day as my gift to you. And if you're liking the podcast and benefiting from it, please leave me a review, which you can do in Apple or you can rate in Spotify. And those things also help other people find the podcast. So that would be a very much welcomed gift for me and others. And if you know of anyone who would like this episode or benefit from it or would benefit from any of my episodes, please share it with them. Send them a text, a link, put it on your socials, whatever feels best to you to share. And remember that you're always welcome to, provide me feedback, ask me questions, ask me to cover certain things. And you can do that by emailing me at paula@reikiflowmn.com, or you can contact me in socials, slide into my DMs, whatever feels best. You're amazing. I love you so much. Thanks again for being here.